But you know, if you talk all the time, you'll never hear what anybody else has to say. And therefore, all you'll have to talk about is your own conversation. The same is true for people who think all the time. That means, when I use the word think, talking to yourself, subvocal conversation, the constant chit-chat of symbols and images and talk and words inside your skull. Now, if you do that all the time, you'll find that you've nothing to think about except thinking. And just as you have to stop talking to hear what others have to say, you have to stop thinking to find out what life is about.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Still Point Show. We have a special session for you today. We're joined by Brennan Pothetes, the CEO of Infinity Constellation, a close collaborator and dear friend of Francis, and someone that we've gotten to know more recently, and just kind of stunned by the depth and explorations that he's undertaking himself in his own world and journey. So we're excited to dive in and explore what's alive for Brennan and Francis today.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Of course.
I think if we were children, we would play well together, which is why as adults we work together.
Yes.
And I think that's, this podcast is not like a marketing exercise. We're not reporting metrics. We're not here to pitch companies. We're here to have conversations. I'm curious what you like to do to play as a kid, and how you connect with that now as an adult.
Well, you want to hear about my first business as a kid?
Yeah.
So at 8 years old, I created a bug shop and museum.
Really?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. And so then I basically started collecting bugs, and I had a museum in a barn.
Wow.
And there were all the little bugs. And then do you remember those like books, those like binders with like animals and bugs and stuff in them that you'd open up and it would like, before the internet, it was like you'd open up and it would like tell you about the bug.
Yeah.
Well, I got those packets, so then I went around the playground and I was like, look, you like pick the bug out from the packet, you give me the money, and then we're gonna like figure out how to get you the bug. And so, yeah.
It was a good cash flow business.
It was a great cash flow business.
You'd pay up front and then the bug happened.
And then we'll just figure out how to get you the bug.
What was the delivery time? Did you ever not deliver?
I mean, a lot of those bugs like were Amazon, like from Amazon in Africa. There was no way for an 8-year-old to get the bugs. So yeah. Busted business model, but I like loved bugs, loved dinosaurs, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Did you ever wonder what it was like to be the bug? Think have 800 eyes, or, have 9 arms, or
not like, I mean, less that and more like consciousness.
Yeah.
So like, is consciousness a wave? Are like we all part of that? Like in my adult life, I've gotten like way more, and like ever since a kid, I was always close. We had lots of dogs, lots of different animals. So like I was always like very close with animals. And to me, people are like, oh, like a dog doesn't have a soul, or like, oh, a dog's like this or that, or like plants don't do this. And I'm like, no, I feel like there's something more here. And like, definitely as like an adult, like we're learning and figuring out that like, wow, like no, consciousness could actually like be a wave. And like, I love the whole concept of like reincarnation.
Yes.
And like that whole cycle. So I guess in that way, yes, but it like took me more of like my mature mind to realize it. Whereas like as a kid, it was like, these are my friends, or like, this is my thing, or, like my dogs are like some of my best friends, like growing up.
I believe in reincarnation.
Yeah, same.
It's taken me a long time to get around to it. When I was a kid, I would play in my grandparents' ranch, and they had a lot of animals, peacocks, dogs, cats. And I had this, St. Francis could talk to animals.
Yeah.
That's part of the St. Francis myth. And so I had this, almost like use the force, Luke. I was really trying. And I would have conversations with them in my mind. I would try to talk to them. And there is that, I don't know if you ever have like a dog look at you and you're like, they know, but do they? And then you wonder if you're hallucinating. I also, because there's a funny role. We actually encourage fantasy in kids, but then we tell them Santa Claus isn't real. But then we have them watch Star Wars. And then when they try to use the force, at some point, they realize it isn't real, which is kind of tragic. I mean, it should be real. It's cool. I remember trying telekinesis, like trying to lift something with my mind. And I actually remember trying to, this is very the dangerous failed experiment. I tried to jump and fly with like
cool.
cardboard wings. I like made cardboard wings and I like put feathers in them.
So you learned physics.
I thankfully didn't learn physics the hard way. I mean, because that is one of those, it could be a injured kid going to the hospital. But what were your? Did you have like a fantasy imagination as a kid? Where were you going in your head?
I was always city building, so I built a lot of like mini cities and like mini architectures and things like that. Like that was like my favorite. Or I would build like epic tree houses and like climb up in the tree houses because like we had a bunch of like we had a little bit of property and like some trees and stuff like that. But yeah, like I totally agree around like the animal. Like you look at like my dog today who sits in the background of a lot of my pitches in Zoom. That's Banksy, everybody.
Yeah.
You can see his expression. You can see he has like fear, joy, happiness. Like so then like once you realize you're like, okay, this creature is like very sentient and it has all these spectrums of things like. Well, what is consciousness? Like, is it a field? Can you, like, if you have reincarnation, can it like graduate? Is there like a higher consciousness you graduate into?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that gets like trippy in our AI world, not to go there, but it's like if something can perfectly mimic consciousness,
Yes.
is it consciousness?
Is it conscious?
And
Yeah.
like, well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
And so I think in like all that vector, if you get back to your child form, like little kids are like, oh, the plants and the trees, and like they're much more in tune with that.
Yeah.
And like nature, I think is much more like pure form of that, where you can like be more in line with consciousness.
Sci-fi and fantasy have this ability to converge, which is, strange.
Totally.
So there's not too many leaps from brain-machine interfaces. Install the chip.
Yes.
I don't want to use my iPhone anymore. I don't want to use my laptop anymore. I just want the computing to be biologically native. I want to like, instead of iMessaging you, I want to.
I mean, the future is
I want
the
to
biology.
telepathically think to
The
you.
biology is technology, right?
Yes.
Where it's like, even if you look at the human body, there's like crazy things that it does, right? Where it's like the design and biology itself is an incredible thing. And so like, I think like a lot of the future of technology is going to honestly be like indistinguishable. So if you look at like someone that's 10,000 years in the future from us back to now, it'll probably be like indistinguishable. Just as like if you went back to like Rome with your iPhone, they would like have a pretty hard time, or your AirPods, they'd have a hard time. Like, how the hell is this playing music?
Do you still read either fantasy or sci-fi today? Did you read them as a kid?
I read a lot more as a kid. But I'm like super into like Asimov now.
Asimov.
Yeah, but oddly I'm into it because of Foundation on Apple. It's probably like my favorite.
That's how you.
It's probably my favorite sci-fi show right now out there. It's just like watch Foundation.
Did I watch it?
You should absolutely watch it.
I loved the series.
So they've done a great adaptation. Can I swear on this?
Yeah,
it's fucking incredible. And then you start getting into like the whole like like laws of robotics and the zeroth law and like, but then it's like, the thing that I think you'll really like is like psychohistory.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, okay, if you can absolutely predict history, but then things are impacting the history. So then
Correct.
It gets into all this, like these really cool layers, which I think is fantastic. I was more like Orson Scott Card as a kid, like with Ender's Game and, like 2001: A Space Odyssey. To me, like growing up, you hit a certain point where it was like, dude, we were supposed to be like going to like Jupiter. I like love space and love space travel. I was like, we're supposed to be having like a space station in Jupiter. We're supposed to be like discovering alien life. Like I love the whole Aliens series from like the 1980s and like that whole idea of like that's supposed to be in the same universe as Blade Runner.
Really?
Yeah. So like Blade Runner and the synths are supposed to be in the same universe as like Aliens. And that's why there's those like synths in those movies.
Wow.
And so like that's also like super interesting. So ever since I was a kid, to me I was like, we're supposed to be like flying around and having space travel and all this stuff. And I think like that aspect of exploration made me like love Star Trek. Love Star Wars, but Star Trek is like epic, right?
There are some things that may not happen in our lifetime unless you listen to the Brian Johnsons of the world where our life extends, but or it would be very cool. Like the idea of gene editing with brain machine interfaces where you basically get like something like the Chronicles of Narnia as a possibility where, you have talking animals, you start to, be able to, basically creates fully conscious, sentient, communicating animals.
Did you see the whole like AI project where they were like having the AI try to communicate with the dolphins?
Yes, I mean they're
There's
already
all these animal projects where it's
Yes.
like, and so like if you fast forward that out, it's like I just think there's so many subtle things. Like I also have 2 cats. There's so many subtle things about their body languages and smells and everything that like we as humans can't pick. But I'm sure if you trained some sort of machine to look at that, you could be like, I'm hungry, or like I'm mad at you, you know?
What do you think if that was a company, right? The goal of the company, the mission of the company was to create sentient animals you could talk to, like the Chronicles of Narnia or Ramayana or whatever. You have a monkey, that could be your best friend, or a bear that could be your best friend. I don't think, if it was scientifically possible, like forget about the business side for a second.
Yeah.
I think the people would show up to work every day really motivated. Like the mission would motivate people. But
In that world, would it be you're unlocking the communication style of the animal already? Or is it like, I forget what, just like some Marvel movie where they like increase it's like Rocket, the like raccoon, where they like take the animal and like experiment and increase the intelligence against its will.
Yes, that one.
Okay, yeah, you're a villain in a Marvel movie. See, I would
almost certainly animal rights activists would sue the company.
I'm pro the like translating, because I actually think there's like the high level of intelligence, like the whole concept of like low intelligence and high intelligence, I think is actually like completely flawed, and like it's very archaic. And so I actually already think that like a dog or a cat or a pig or a cow, like I already think these animals are highly intelligent, and there's like a lot of intuition, and like frankly there's theories where they think your brain is a room temperature quantum computer. They think a dog's smell is quantum. Like there's this whole other aspect of intelligence I don't think we even have begun to understand.
That's right.
But yeah, the modifying the animal to like be kind of like bastardized human intelligence that could like quote and do that, and that is Marvel villain.
Yes.
But you create Rocket, who's like super cute. So
there you go.
Yeah.
In Asimov, I hate to spoil the plot. I don't know if they've gotten to this far.
Spoiler alert.
But at the end, there's a planet called Gaia that is a unified intelligence. It's sort of like an environmentalist dream, because this planet is like a superior life form, and it decides the fate of the universe.
Maybe we're on that planet, man.
But it's very trippy in the sense, almost like a psychedelic vision of the oceanic awareness, where everyone and everything is really just one thing.
Yeah.
It's an example in sci-fi of coming to a mystical, almost a religious, a fantasy conclusion.
That's Buddhism.
Yeah, it's Buddhism. Exactly. It's Buddha, Hinduism. It's a lot of.
There's like many. Actually, most of the world religions are like many to one. Like if you look at all the frameworks, like even Zoroastrianism, everything is like many to one, returning back to the one.
To return to the one, yeah.
Yeah, and so like
the one to the many, the many to the one.
Yeah.
That's like Kabbalism.
That's like just a very interesting cycle.
Yeah, and they have very specific technical language for intelligence. For example, in Kabbalah, they have 2 of the Sephirot, Binah and Gevurah. One is like understanding, and one is wisdom. One basically is nonverbal. It's just the download that comes to you, the eureka moment, the silence you have while meditating. And the other is like the analytical, processing, verbal mind. Yeah. And they have words for it. In Buddhism, also, jnana and prajna, intuition and logic. But we sort of lump it all into this thing, and. I mean, you work in AI.
Yeah.
And how do you differentiate between the sort of sci-fi excitement of like the hype and the reality? Because having worked with you, I know that you are the opposite of a like drink the Kool-Aid AI maxi.
Yeah.
You're not that.
No.
You're super grounded, but you're also creative and visionary and long term. So like, how do you not drink the Kool-Aid and also let your mind think about all the possibilities?
I mean, it's the archetype of the explorer, right? So, really, for me, on one end, like you could be exploring a jungle in the Amazon back in the day, and like there's dangers and pitfalls, but there's also treasures. There's also like new bugs and new animals, and like I think like that framework is something I put on my life as an entrepreneur, and so I look at I look at AI, and like AI in a lot of ways I think is a reflection of its creator human, and like there will be good and bad from it. And I think building, like, on one angle, markets are imperfect and there are waves and valleys, and you can go out and like ride the wave, but I think it's important to build something sustainable and build something that impacts people and changes everybody's lives. Like, you know, I love SpaceX. I absolutely love it because we literally wouldn't be able to get anything into orbit if it wasn't for SpaceX right now. And I don't think a lot of people like understand that. Like, we've lost a lot of the technology that can get us to the moon. Like if we had to go to the moon right now, like,
Without SpaceX, yes.
but like even then there's still like technology that, like, from the 60s, like figuring out how to get through the radiation belt, for instance. Like, they have to time that really specifically. Like, there's a bunch that just, like, we don't, like, they have it in theory and blueprint, but they haven't like done it fully yet, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, like, I think there's a huge promise of like where technology is, where it can go, and I love that, and that's what drives me. But end of the day, like, I do all this for learning and self-growth. And so, like, my end, I'm not like an ultimate maxi because to me, it's like the more the journey and the growth around like what I'm doing with it. Like, I was using AI to read memoirs by Marcus Aurelius and digging into that and learning about like Sextus and skeptical philosophy. And oddly, there's like a quote in memoirs where Sextus was saying, like, go to nature, like, when you question, you're like overly skeptical about man
Yes.
and society, right? And like, that's so interesting.
Yes.
From, because like, okay, like, nature is actually, and like the unlock I had because I started just having this conversation with the AI was like, okay, like, nature is sort of like where we're from, where we're at. And so, like, when you're overly skeptic and like what we are in our society and our systems, like, going there is like a reset and cleansing of the palate, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's a great example of like real AI doing real stuff that, like, as a kid I'd have been like, oh my God, this is fucking incredible. But like, like, am I in a flying car yet? Is there robots like Asimov? Like, I don't know. Like, and I don't know if that like makes sense or
It
or
totally
if
makes
I
sense.
can
Well, the whole point of the podcast is to ramble. Rambling is underrated, honestly. And so is ranting.
I was very ranty.
It's good. Rant away. There's a line in of Solomon's: "Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider his ways and be wise." And T.S. Eliot, during World War II, he like is writing The Once and Future King. He's writing the story about King Arthur that Walt Disney later made into the first. He took the first book and made it The Sword and the Stone. And Merlin would teach Arthur by casting his wand with a spell to turn him into different animals. So he'd turn him into an owl, he'd turn him into a fish, and he'd turn him into an ant, and he'd turn him into a couple other things in order to experience the animal kingdom firsthand. And then there would be like a whole chapter of Arthur. This is like King Arthur as an ant. It's very psychedelic, and he's like what he's doing as an ant, building in the, like, all the friends he makes as an ant, how he almost dies as an ant, whatever. And then he gets transformed back and he's like a boy again. And then Merlin would sort of have philosophy class with Arthur and be like, so what'd you learn about politics? And I think that there's you use, I notice in all, in business, you use a lot of Darwinian metaphors.
Yes. Like evolution. And like also as like an investor and builder of business, curating the biology and like pruning the tree or letting it grow or, setting the state, like that's our source code, right? Like that's a truth in everything in our world. Right. And so like if you believe in the one or like you believe in Gaia or anything, like the truth about everything is there's like a system that works and in place. And so like if you tap into that, you can do it. Right.
Yeah. And that thing is, so most people react to Darwinism not as a positive word. They view it as like uncompassionate, dangerous, evil. They're afraid of being eaten alive by some velociraptor or something, or like being bitten by a snake in the jungle, or not being the apex predator, being the prey, not the predator. And there is a certain, dark politics of Darwinism where in a kill or be killed world, I guess the apex predator likes Darwinism, but everyone else doesn't. But you embrace it as just the Tao, as like the way
truth,
the way things are. Yes, it is truth. But you don't try to like resist the truth. You just embrace it, and then you adapt.
Have you ever like fallen out of whitewater rafting?
Yeah. Yes, I have fallen.
Yeah. And then like, have you tried to swim against whitewater rapids?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and you basically just get pushed down the river, and then you get gassed. Like we used to, like as kids, like in Oregon, jump out of the raft and then learn to float down the river. And basically, what you do is you use like the system, the river. So like you use your little hands as fins, and it just like directs, like you can like with almost no effort just direct yourself to the beach. So for me, understanding the source code or understanding the system or understanding the play, like not swimming up against the current, but swimming with the current will get you to your goal faster. So like the faster I can understand or like hack the system or hack the truth, then that's the faster I get to the outcome I want. And so like for me, like, yeah, like I think Darwinism is used like not well with like, oh, kill or be killed, or like, and that's like actually not Darwinism. That's if you go read Origin of Species, which I haven't read the whole thing, but
neither have I actually.
But I kind of want to.
I know. It's one of the most important books I've never read.
We need it in Alexandria.
Yes.
But the it's about systems becoming more and more complex and being like pruned and trimmed, and like less efficient systems going away. And I think that is incredibly interesting, and I think in a lot of ways like really beautiful. Another book I love is a mix of the origins of wealth and or the origin of species and wealth of nations, which I believe it's called The Origin of Wealth.
Yes.
And it's about how financial markets, so like in economics, all of economics is actually based on thermodynamics and the idea of an equilibrium, which is flawed. Because like markets actually never hit an equilibrium. Instead, they get continually more complex and more sophisticated. So it's actually more biological, more like Darwinian.
That's right.
So like that's one of like the first books I read. Like I'm an econ background
that
I like read out of college and just like very like stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so I take that evolutionary idea into like growing companies and all these things. And so I don't view it as like kill or be killed, or, oh, there's some apex predator killing this thing because it's better evolved. It's like, that actually might not even be the case. Like that apex predator might, there might be a volcano that like blows up, and then the atmosphere gets dark, and then the prey dies off, and then that dinosaur can't eat the thing, so then the little mouse lives. Like that's Darwinism.
Yes.
It's not necessarily like the biggest and strongest win.
Yeah. Yeah. Another word is just zoe, the Greek word for life. It like actual over time, the Darwinian process of nature has resulted in so much biodiversity and so much life. And so in a way, nature is beyond good and evil. It's both good and evil. It contains death, it contains life, but it results in this flourishing complexity. And it's sort of beyond the comprehension of our mind. It's too complex. And one of the things I appreciate about the way your orientation towards the natural way and going towards nature is that I find that, and this is really true in tech, people tend to like look for overly simplistic formulas that they can put into little nice boxes. And
everything's like overly reducted.
Really reductive.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy because it creates an advantage for an entrepreneur like you, because you don't let yourself or your company or your team get put into those boxes. What are some moments when you realize that everyone is zigging and you start zagging like that?
We're in one of those moments.
Yeah.
So like when people are like AI, and I have a counter on how many times I want to say AI in this podcast, but
it's like drink a shot.
But think about like when the internet, think about like when the internet was created.
Yeah.
It was called the information highway. That was the branding. Everyone's like, I need to get on the information highway. And now it's like,
to go where?
Exactly. And so like, think about the 30 billion different things the internet now does for us.
Yeah.
And like, that's what we're right now in that moment of society where like AI or like HEI. And it's like so much more, complicated, and there will be so many more businesses and ideas and advancements that come out of this technology, which I deeply believe in. But like, So that's like one area. The other is like, I think, I don't know. I like, there's a lot of folks, and this, you might actually disagree with this. Let's see if I can be controversial. I think a lot of people love backing founders where it's like, I was at this hot company and then I was a salesperson at this hot company and I've been at 3 hot logos. I actually love the founder that's like ran into a brick wall 4 times. Like no one knows what the fuck their companies are, but they're like still like, yeah, I want to go and I want to step up the plate and like take another swing. Like I love that, because to me, that's like someone just like hacking the evolutionary biology of the system. And they're like, I've almost figured out the system. I've almost figured out the system. Whereas like most, like, let's say you have like 4 amazing logos on your resume, like you probably were never in that competitive an island, you know? So like I've been building companies in financial services, highly competitive island, because it's like you have Chase, you have all these big banks, you have regulation, like capital doesn't want to fund it. It's like, you know, if you bank the wrong person, you go to jail. Like it's very intense. And then it's like, you let me off that island into like some AI services. This is a lot of fun. And so it's like a land bridge comes down for those kind of cases. So that's also like where I like zig and zag. I like people who are more like repetitive into this for like the learning, than like a financial outcome or stuff like that. And you know, the third area that I have very strong opinions on is like, I think a lot of founders should be, you know, if you're taking venture capital or any capital of any kind, you need to be thinking about your exit, and that shouldn't be a secondary. Like that should be like, okay, what are you going to IPO at? What multiple is the market at? Where's the market going to be? Am I overbought? Am I underbought? And like, I don't think there's enough of that. I think everyone's trying to be like, oh, I want to raise, you know, 800 million because that guy over there raised 800 million. And like, that's success to me. And it's like, I don't know if that's success, you know? And so like, I'm very, like Charlie Munger in the way like, of like fundamentally on how I like to build businesses, because I think like biologically, tying this all back together, the markets and the system ultimately will like, you know, correct in those ways, right?
Yeah. Everything you said was so provocative. I agree with all of it, for the record. At least at first, you know, on the first,
I just know you always like a snappy background on a founder, and so that's the main thing. I thought like you and I have debated a lot of like backgrounds over the years, but
yeah, it's a bit yin yang, right? Because to your point, markets eventually converge.
Yeah.
And so, but for a long time, they can, you know, you can have a contrarian situation. So if you back the underdog, you know, it is possible that this is a really mispriced human capital, and that person can end up being the next great entrepreneur. At some point in that person's journey, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to be right or you're going to be wrong, and they're going to win, and the market will realize that they're incredible, or you know, you'll be wrong. And so you kind of have to, when we find ourselves at variance with the market, it's a form of risk and reward.
Arbitrage.
It's arbitrage. And so we actually should look for those, because if you're finding someone who the market thinks is absolutely incredible, you're very unlikely to you know, have like, any arb in that.
I also don't think that the market is perfect, right? So like if you go back into like pure economic theory, like it's a very, like in venture, it's actually like not that dense of a market.
Yeah.
The market's like not that perfect. And the market might be completely misvaluing something because they have asymmetric information.
Yeah.
So like they might not know that a Brennan or a Francis or a Brian pounded through a wall 10 times and now figured out a model that works that they can like click on and work and then accelerate really quick on, because that's asymmetric information. So for me, I look for persistence, which I think isn't controversial. I think a lot of people try to find that, but I think love is leverage in business, and you have to like love what the fuck you do. And like it might give you 20%, 30%, it might give you 200%, but either way, like if you and I both start a business and I love it and you don't, that extra percent is going to take me right over the top, and I'll beat you every time, every day. So like that's the secret of like what I look for in somebody. And like I know we talk a lot about this, like but I think that that's actually the biggest thing I spend most of my time talking to founders about, because I think it's such a asymmetric leverage point. It's like, who cares what you've done or what you haven't done? Are you persistent, and like, do you love it? And if it starts working, like some tier 1 fund like Sequoia is going to go find the best people, put the most capital against it, and put it right against you. So like the only advantage you have is love.
Wow.
Put that on a shirt.
Do you actually love is leverage? Do you actually love what you do that much?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean,
Not the fact that like you're on my board.
Do you know?
like,
Yeah.
But like,
do you know? You're of Greek descent. Yeah?
yes.
Do you know the Empedocles, who was a Cretan? Do you know?
It was in Crete.
Do you know? Yes, I know you were in Crete. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Do you know the Cretan paradox?
Tell me.
Well, Empedocles, the Cretan, said, all Cretans are liars. So was he telling the truth? If he was telling the truth, then he's not a liar, but he's a Cretan. But he said all Cretans are liars. So if he's telling the truth, then he's telling a lie.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's it's actually not that funny. But what
I thought it's funny.
I mean, chicks don't think it's funny.
No.
But I guess guys do. The Empedocles paradox is definitely true when you're on a podcast saying, I promise, I'm not marketing to you. I love what I do. But
take the business aside.
You seem to love what you, but here's a question.
Yeah.
If you made $1 billion
Yeah.
on Infinity, at the IPO.
Yeah.
You'd still be building AI services companies? Like, wouldn't you, I don't know, like, be building, castles and cathedrals and drilling, dynamiting into some mountain in the woods somewhere, or
I don't think that's what I'm
working on human flight, or I don't know, like, isn't there some inner child, like your SpaceX, your crazy sci-fi fantasy project that you would be putting that money into, or like you would really be building AI services?
I don't think that's what we're doing. Like, not to plug. I think we're a vehicle that's capturing the current technology now, which is AI, and then putting that into real world application and creating fucking huge outcomes. And like, yeah, I'll do that till the day I die and reincarnate into something cool. But maybe a space bug or something in space. But like that's what I'm really excited about, and like that's the context switch. And for me, this is all about, and I'm also like not necessarily like, yes, we're doing that now, but it's a vehicle for personal growth, right? So the fastest vehicle for your own personal growth is being an entrepreneur, in my opinion. And like that's what brings me to the table every time. And like, sure, can you with enough money buy enough freedom, and can you buy enough flexibility to change things in life, and can you make bigger bets and do bigger things, like build a space company and or build like Boom Hypersonic? So cool, right? Like you can do companies like that, but like
for those not familiar, what does Boom Hypersonic do?
Oh, Boom is, let's talk about the Concorde.
Yeah. What happened to the Concorde? 1970s,
well,
it made it much easier to live in Paris and fly to New York for a business meeting, and you can't do that anymore.
So there was the US-Russia space race.
Yeah.
And that was to the moon, that everyone knows about. The UK and Russia had their own race to hypersonic, and the US actually had their own, and then they dropped out. So the UK and Russia raced hypersonic aircrafts, and so Russia had one and the UK had one. So it was very much like their space program.
Okay.
And so that's the history of it. And then essentially, as I understand it, expensive, had a sonic boom, and just the price per seat and the economics like didn't work out for British Airways. Plug for Boom Hypersonic. I don't know these guys at all. No interest, but just a cool company.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're re-commercializing it for air travel. But now you can do a lot with technology where like, sonic booms would happen because of the shape of the aircraft and like friction with sound. And so you can actually like change the body of the aircraft to not have sonic booms or have less sonic booms or hypersonic.
Wow.
You can change the efficiency of it, all sorts of things like that. And also like if SpaceX ends up doing commercial flight, can you imagine like being in Dubai in 45 minutes from like New York?
Incredible.
Like think about that.
It would make it much easier.
Let's go to
manage
Dubai.
A global company.
Yeah. But like the flip end is technology, like processing power, everything's going to continue to get better and better and better. So like you could send your avatar to around the world, or you could send like the autonomous CEO for you to the place. So like that's the irony of the whole thing, is like we're getting Jetsony, but then it's also like, do you need to like, will we actually need to go to Mars?
Yeah.
And that gets to be kind of like a funny, I don't know, it's like another dark, I guess dark. What's the theory about like why we don't hear alien life anywhere? Like
Fermi's
another.
paradox.
Yeah, it's another. Yeah, the Fermi paradox. It's like another like kind of like, well, why don't we hear anything out there? It could actually be like, well, most societies hit a point with technology where it's like they just don't have to and don't want to maybe.
They just run out of motivation.
Yeah, or like
But
that,
just speaking
yeah.
of motivation, going back to the Epimenides paradox,
Yeah.
convince me you're not a liar about this really being about personal growth and not money. Because I mean, I just
I mean,
assume,
I'm a capitalist.
of course you're a
Like,
capitalist, yeah, and like you're not shy about being a capitalist, and you're a great capitalist if I dare say so myself.
Thank
Apex predator, but like you're saying that this is all about personal growth.
I mean,
this
end
is
of
a
the day,
bit
the
like
thing that gets
the shark in Finding Nemo. That's like fish are our friends.
maybe.
Like why is this about personal growth for you?
I mean, for me, for better or worse, the thing that gets me up out of bed every morning is like learning, being better. Like, great example. One of the companies that we back created this awesome app and got me reading Marcus Aurelius with memoirs. And that's like, that's what I was talking about earlier, right? And it like changed my thinking, changed my way. It's like, yeah, that's because we got together with some great founders, created some awesome technology, and like now that's impacting lives. I've learned and I've grown from that. Like I used to be in banking. If I was like making a lot of money in banking, doing a bank job, like there's not like, yeah, you grow and you learn like government regulation around like derivatives, and you learn credit quality and you learn all this stuff. But like it's a different growth pattern than like when you're in explore mode. And end of the day, for me, personal growth is the final frontier and is explore mode, which like takes me back to being a little kid, which like I was always the explorer in the woods, building the forts, doing all the things. And so that's just like my most natural state. And so but the hack has to be, I have to like love what the fuck I'm doing and like getting that feedback loop. And so one of my companies I started in the past that I ended up like selling, that I wasn't a huge fan of, is because I realized I like didn't want to be the CEO of an insurance company. And like, I love insurance. I love risk. I love actuarial models. I love capital markets behind it. But like running an actual insurance company, I'm like, I would rather be the CEO of a AI holding company
Yes.
than the CEO of an insurance company, even though they're both like very cool businesses, very complex in their own ways. And that's my big differentiator. And so for me, like it's not so much like AI services. It's more like the ability to create and the ability to continue to be an entrepreneur, which then allows like, I mean, it's probably one of the hardest jobs in the world. It's like, I forget, someone quoted somewhere. It's like literally like waking up in the morning and like eating glass in a lot of ways.
An entrepreneur. I think
Yeah.
Elon said that.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
but like and like he's a hardware entrepreneur. So like
Yeah.
I'm software, so not anywhere near as hard, but like
Yeah.
you're waking in the morning eating glass, and eventually you just get to a certain point where like you're like eking out efficiencies all over your life so that you can easier eat glass because you can learn faster, learn better, hit the next hurdle, up level yourself. Right.
This is
like,
so,
that's what's driving me. And like, yes, I want money. Like I'm not like, but if I was in a Star Trek world, like let's pretend we're in the Star Trek universe, like I would love to be a captain of a ship and just be like, cool, my job is to explore new frontiers, encounter new people, find new cultures, do whatever, like, because it's the same motion. It's the exact same motion to me. Do you buy that? Or am I still Cretan?
No, well, I'm buying it because I do think there's some marginal point at which there's no amount of money I could pay Brennan to be operating an insurance carrier.
Yeah.
Like
not to say that's not a great business, and like that,
and that's an interesting thing. I mean, the marginal economics there is interesting because money represents the ability to explore as well. And so it's like, if I pay you $1 million a year is not enough. Okay, how about 10 million a year? Is that enough? And it's like, how about 100 million a year? It's like, well, you put up with this thing that you don't want to do, but then on the other side of it, you can explore a lot. You could do all kinds of exploration. But
you know why that doesn't work?
Why?
Because money does not equal time, and that's what Brian Johnson is trying to do. Is make I think be interesting to talk to him about this, but like I think he's pioneering a way with longevity to try to like make it so that like, okay, if I use capital to like find the best science, like study the things the best, can I extend my life? Yeah. So like he's trying to equalize that, where it's like, let's say you go, and you spend 10 years being the CEO of an insurance company and you make a ton of money. And then you're like, now it's my free time. And then you get hit by a bus, or like you get cancer, or you get like whatever, like time, like you never know when that clock is going to stop. And so for me, like, yeah, longevity is cool, but ultimately, like, I value my time the most out of anything in that spectrum. And like, it's probably more than like the marginal utility of dollar of time you could give me to be the CEO of an insurance company.
But then why the masochism of
Hmm.
eating glass? Like you're implying that entrepreneurship's not fun, or at least some part of it is not fun.
Definitely not.
And, well, I mean, there's definitely a part of entrepreneurship that's really painful and hard and full of sacrifices.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm still not convinced that you enjoy it.
I think starting companies and building what I've built the last 15 years has genuinely made me a much better person and enriched my life to, like, I guess I don't have to prove to you because I just know it to be my own truth. But
You prove it. You
like
prove
I
it
would just say, like, over time, like if you met me 10, 15 years ago, like I'm a very like different person in a lot of different ways. And I continue to like accelerate and do that. And like I'm getting a lot of, I guess my measurement is like personal fulfillment.
Yeah.
And like that, like personal growth turns into like personal fulfillment. And that I think that's like why do people study philosophy? Like why do people read or like do anything in the exploration side of things, right? Like I think it's about like knowledge, but it's also about, you know, knowledge isn't just reading a book. It's like it might be learning to like meditate in nature and learning to quiet your mind, which like
That's right.
I still haven't figured that out, you know?
Yes. But you mentioned that you believe in, or at least entertain the idea of reincarnation.
Yeah.
What is the if you were to guess what this lifetime is about for you, you're on your deathbed, you're looking back, and you're feeling a sense of fulfillment. What are the things, and then what haven't you done yet? That like, if it happened, you know, today, what do you feel like has been unfulfilled? Like that, what are the boxes you haven't checked?
Do you remember when we got the tsunami alert?
Yes, I remember
year?
that was insane.
Yeah. So Francis and I, here for guests on the podcast, Francis and I were
Such a
together.
weird day.
And we were, where were we? We were in California.
We were,
and we were like walking.
Half Moon Bay.
Yeah, we were in Half Moon Bay, and all of a sudden, like our phones just go like beep, like the warning, and it's like urgent tsunami, get to land as quickly as possible. And we were just like, and so like all like we pile into cars and we're like, there's traffic. It's like what people are like figuring stuff out, and we eventually like get up a hill and we're just like up there sitting there, and like, you know, I like texted my wife and I was like, I don't want to die or pass away, but like in that moment, I'm like, okay, I'm like in my flow state, like doing my thing, did my stuff, like I don't want to die, it's not ready, but I'm like, cool, I'm doing like the thing I want to do, great. And like that was like a weird acid test of like, you know, if I was sitting there being like, I'm a stockbroker, and I'd be like, well, like I have a lot of fun, I haven't gotten to like my fun free part of my life yet, like I didn't have that in that moment. So I'm like really fulfilled, like I've got a great wife, I've got a great life, I got to build cool companies, like it's like that, I feel very like I wanted that, but I like want to do a shitload more stuff. And so that's like one dimension of it. And then I think what was your, like, that was, were you poking at like what beyond that I want to do? Or,
yeah, no. So then how about next life? So
you asked what this life was about.
Yeah.
This life for me, it's a really good question. I think it's about trying to like bend the curve, you know, like if we're talking like psychohistory, going back to foundation, talking about psychohistory and like bending the curve, like can I create anything that bends the curve? Like that's what I think this is about. And like that's the fun thing. And like it's so funny, in the latest episode of Foundation, there was someone like, they're like, oh yeah, it's only like 200 years, like literally like this doesn't matter on this scale. And you start thinking the scale of like in like the cosmic scale of things, right? And you're like, that doesn't matter. And so it's like, can you create or build something that can like bend a curve? I think is like incredibly interesting. And I think it's like really, really hard to do. And I don't even know if like anything has bent the curve in a long way for like whatever that means for like humanity, society, like betterment of other people. space travel, whatever, right?
So do I take it then that in your next lifetime, you would also end up an entrepreneur? And the next lifetime after that, and the next lifetime after that? Like, at what point are you bored of this thing?
I don't know. I mean, I think,
and remember, you can't compound capital across lifetimes. You're starting with whatever you're.
I don't think it's about like
you can compound karma though. Apparently,
I mean, I think it's like I think it's about like using the time that you have as a gift and like being around the people that you love and like building like really meaningful connections, and like that's genuinely like what I'm about. And I think I've been doing like, I don't know if I like believe in reincarnation or not, but like I'd like it to be a thing. And I think for like many lifetimes I've done that, and I will continue to do that. And even if I'm an ant, I'll build a cool little ant hill and do all sorts of stuff.
One of the things I like about your personal fulfillment, personal growth answer, which I agree with, is that it cuts through all the other games and stories that we tell ourselves. And it is my deepest belief about why we're here. I think that the progress narratives are kind of a big giant lie.
Yeah.
And I think your point about foundation is right. For those of you who haven't watched the series or read the books, the books were written in like the 1950s, I think.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a term AI, but basically like they invent an AI model for predicting the future. And then everyone becomes a fatalist because they can see already that all of this is pointless and everything's going to shit. Yeah. And that you can only change things on very long time scales and very rare actions, etc.
Or it would like change one way and then the other thing would get it and like bend it back, right? Like there's always like there's hilarity ensues.
Yes.
Cosmic hilarity.
Yeah. And in the traditional paths to enlightenment, one of the paths was always the path of action. Mm-hmm. The Hindus called it karma yoga. And then there was the path of knowledge. There was a path of devotion, service. But the interesting thing about action with a fatalistic perspective is that, as Carl Jung said, there's actually a quote here in New York in the subway as you enter Bryant Park, I think. Free will is doing that which you must do, which is Jung being very paradoxical about fate.
That was also the park Tesla hung out at.
Yeah,
like Nikola Tesla would hang out in that park, in that exact park.
Oh no, I think the quote in Bryant Park is also relevant to our conversation. I think it's Jung saying the unnatural, that too is natural. There is nothing unnatural. Everything is nature.
It's kind of like the sexist quote of "Go back to nature" when you're
go back to nature. Yeah. What is it? Go back to nature.
Or it's like I will use that and get you the quote, but it's like something of like when you're like questioning man or society, like return to nature, right? Like that was like one of Marcus Aurelius's memoirs.
Yeah. We should include all this in the show notes. I think Alan Watts had his famous exercise of the dream. So if tonight you could dream 75 years of life and dream anything you wanted to dream, what would you dream? And then if tomorrow you could do it, what would you do it? And then eventually, at what point would you get bored and dream the life you're having now? And
Star Trek.
So first night is Star Trek. But if you get bored of it.
No. Infinite universes, infinite galaxies, infinite dimensions. Like, come on. That's so sick. I will give up being an entrepreneur to be a space captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the space captain, ultimately, it's like, okay, you get the starship, you get the aliens and
you watch
planets. I watched a little bit. I was more of a Star Wars guy.
Do you know about the Q?
No.
The Q are like a people or race, and like they're basically like super beings, and they're like all seeing, all knowing in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And they they know everything, and so like you go like there's an episode they like go to their dimension, and they're like it's like just there's people like bored sitting around.
Yeah.
And like the like start like why are people bored and whatever, and like they're like we just seen and known everything infinitely, and like we're just bored.
Yeah.
And then they like basically are like, oh well, like you should have a kid, and then that'll make you like not bored. And they're like, okay. And so then they blink and they're like, oh, we learned to like have kids, and like now we're like excited because like we're parents having kids. Like
what?
Yeah. You should go back and watch like Next Generation. Like you gotta watch Star Trek. It's just like it's so cool and to be like way up your alley. Star Wars is also incredible, but like Star Trek, Dune is epic, but like Star Trek has like so many like in one episode you watch like a very interesting like psychological question or like philosophical question.
Well, the hero's journey is real across, any simulation.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing about all the stories. Like if you take all the stories that were ever written, sci-fi, fantasy, history, biographies, whatever, the hero's journey is present in all of them. And so we're all just sort of having a hero's journey.
Yeah.
And so you're having yours. What is the brand Infinity, just as a brand? What does it motivate you? What does it mean to you?
That's a good question. I mean, for me, it's about like a constellation of different planets, which are companies. And it's like very cosmic and magical because like we create different businesses. And that's like what it's about to me.
Does the concept of the infinite freak you out?
No. I don't know.
If you were trying to explain infinity as a concept to a child, how would you do that?
Just everything. Always.
Help me understand.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
is infinity here in this room?
Yeah.
Where?
It's not in the room. It's like Ant-Man. You like zoom all the way down and it's like you can go infinitely down, but you can go infinitely big.
Yeah.
Like I think it's limitless, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like all these descriptor words, but it's the coolest thing about it is like the biggest possible thing.
Yeah.
But it's also like indescribable, right?
As far as the smallest possible thing, or
Yeah.
it's a very
Infinitely down or up or side to side.
I don't know where we're at.
We're coming up to time.
I actually have a question for you as a curveball because you've been patiently listening. So Brian and I have been friends for a long time. We've seen each other's different chapters in this period of time. Sometimes we've seen that on Instagram or like at a distance. I remember seeing a photo of you in India meditating. And it was the most shamanic photo. And it was the transformation. When I first met you, your hairstyle was different. There was less facial hair or none. And the fashion was different. And you went through some kind of, for lack of a better word, like a shamanic transformation. And the best, I think the title of the talk is The Price of Miracles. And he talks about the shaman as a model, as like an archetype. And he defines the archetype as the hero that learns from, or the student that learns from nature itself, as opposed to the student that learns from a teacher. And nature itself is a hard teacher. So I'm curious, like in hearing all this chat, what was coming up for you?
I think the most resonant theme for me that kind of tracks the whole conversation goes back to just encountering what delight, what can open within this moment that can serve our transformation, can serve the course of evolution, the course of history. And to do that from a place of kind of pure joy, like for having a love of life, to use love as leverage and to use that leverage to create more life. And so for me, like my path has been similar to that, what you shared, Brennan. And I know this is part of your journey as well, Francis, is appreciating what's possible in each moment and using our imagination, using our bliss that's inside of us to like explore the world and to try to create great things together through that exploration. It's also a great opportunity for me and others, watching and listening, to get to witness you guys and your different tempos of how you relate. Brennan, like I feel like you are so in the flow of life and building all these companies and doing all these things. And Francis, you as well are doing this too, but from more of a like chairman CEO is kind of like an interesting model here. It speaks to both of your archetypes really well. So yeah, that's kind of, I think there is like this archetypal essence of like, we're each holding a different pulse or attunement to the path.
Yeah.
But there's, it's been a great pleasure to witness this conversation because we get to see life manifest through these different archetypes. And you guys together, actually, it's like the kinship and chemistry that you have is so like compelling.
Yeah.
Like
you really do this for hours.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like very yin and yang too.
Yeah.
Like that's what's so funny is like we're actually like very different.
Yeah.
But then we'll geek out on like Asimov for I guess an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. What I came up for me as you were sharing, Brian, is the way in which we end up so involved in the world doing things like on these big missions to change the world. But like Infinity is the most important company in the world because that's the company we work on and this is the company that's going to change the world. And it's true. And I believe it. You know, I believe Infinity is going to go to 1 trillion. But there is this, sometimes like a bird's eye perspective where you wonder what would happen to the world if you weren't there. And guess what? It would still be doing it, just the world would still be the world.
We're all shadows and dust.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
or like in the same theme, like I love D.H. Lawrence and the poem on self-pity. A bird dropped dead, frozen from a bough, never once felt sorry for itself, right? Like I think like nature and life, like, you know, can you bend the curve? Can you do some of the stuff? Like you're so intensely focused on the rapid and like getting through the rapid and surviving, but it's also like, you know, shadows and dust.
Yeah. If the curve wants to bend, it'll bend. If it wants to use you to bend itself, then it will use you to bend itself. And you are the curve.
Totally.
Yeah.
Feels like a great place to wrap.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Dude, I love that.
Awesome.
So did I.
Cheers.
And the moment you stop thinking, you become into immediate contact with what Korzybski called, so delightfully, the unspeakable world. The most ordinary sights and sounds and smells